Hello, hello. Welcome back, Sleepyheads. And we're going to read Sam's continued journey in the Red Book. So, if you're ready, take a deep breath. How Mr. Frodo knew that Bilbo and the elves were nearby, I'll never know, any better than how he reckoned the names of my children all, in their proper order, when they weren't even thought of. He always seemed to know things that a normal hobbit couldn't know. I tried with all of that, and I had to give him all that I had, which wasn't much beyond tending his gardens and protecting him along that treacherous journey of his. He suffered the whole time, and it got even worse before the end. Even after we had come back, he still suffered to himself, looking all pale and hurting. More and more I knew that there'd be naught else I could do for him, because his hurts were beyond the mends of a mere gardener. So I dreaded the day when he came to me and asked me to get Bill and the pony he rode all the way from the White City, which he had named Strider. I knew deep inside that this would be our last journey together, but didn't want to believe it. And there we were, way out of Hobbiton, where Mr. Frodo began to sing some song about the sun and moon and finding the ring between them. I didn't give much heed at first, but after he finished, I heard the elves singing as if they were answering him a purpose. Soon I saw Lord Elrond, Lord Celeborn, Lord Gildor, who we met on the way to Sheriff Hollow when this all began, and the Lady Galadriel with a host of other elves following. Sitting on a pony all his own was Mr. Bilbo. They were heading west, toward them havens, and Mr. Frodo asked me to go with them, and no further than the towers. I knew that he was finally going to the one place I could not follow. But he told me that I could not always be torn in two, and torn I was. I loved my Rosie and my Eleanor, and from what Mr. Frodo says, there'd be a lot more little Gamgees for me to take care of in time. But he went off to say that something had to be lost so that others could keep them. I just never thought of that. Of all imaginable things that I'd have to give up, Mr. Frodo himself. Not so soon. And when we got ourselves to the gate at the havens, another elf, old-looking he was, let us in, and led us to the water where a great white ship waited in the quay. He was Círdan, the shipwright, come to carry the elves, Mr. Bilbo and Mr. Frodo across the sea to rest. This is it. Samwise and no mistake, I thought. It's all over now, and it's going to be a long and lonely ride home. But just when I thought it, up came Merry and Pippin. Lord bless me. There was Gandalf, who must have gotten word to them and find their way to the havens just in a nick of time. I could hardly hold myself together, and neither could Merry and Pippin. If the truth be told, I'd say there was no use in crying, knowing what was about to happen, if you take my meaning. But Gandalf said it would be better to ride back there together than while all alone. He also said that if it was not such a bad thing, this weeping foe all the tears are an evil, and weep we did. When Mr. Frodo came over to say goodbye, of all the things we saw, of all the hurts we suffered, and of all the things we survived, nothing had prepared me to let him go like this. But I had to let him go like this. For his sake, if not for mine. If Merry, Pippin, and I were at all important to him, then we had to believe that whatever waited for him across the water had to be more important for him. We certainly wouldn't have trusted no one else but Gandalf, the Lord, and the Lady to take him there, if that was the best thing to do. For if we had considered them to be powerful before, they seemed even more at that very moment, because each now more won them one of the 3 hidden rings of the elves we had heard so much about. Well, Mr. Bilbo and Mr. Frodo finally got on the ship, and it took them away, far away west. For a moment I could see the lady's glass in Mr. Frodo's hand. It flickered in the sunlight, and then it was gone. I sure hoped that his days were brighter, where he was going. But for me, the night only got darker, and all I saw was a shadow upon the water that was soon lost in the dusk. Maybe what Mr. Frodo told me was true. That since I was a ring bearer for a short while, that maybe I too could cross over the seas someday. But there was no way for me to know for sure. Right at that moment, all we could do was just stand there for far into the night. The three of us, without a word being said, listening to those waves splash it up. Though at any time Mr. Frodo's voice would come out of them. But there was nothing more, but the quiet murmur of the sea, which only sank deeper into my heart. At last we turned away, never to look back again, and rode home, wards with our 3 ponies, with 2 more walking beside us bearing no riders. I don't think we said anything to each other until we reached the Shire, but it was good, as Gandalf said, that we had the comfort of one another for the trip, in the memory of our beloved Mr. Frodo, which would never die. Samwise Gamgee. Even though Mr. Bilbo and Mr. Frodo taught me my letters, putting pen to paper is a fair struggle for the likes of a Gamgee. What have they written here is clever and accurate to the best of my recall since my master's departure. I have read this entire book many times more as a matter of personal comfort, and I have learned much that Mr. Frodo never told me directly, but I knew just from the way he looked how sick he was, getting from all his wounds that never really got any better. I'm not sure what else may be told, but Mr. Frodo's last request was for me to add something to the remaining. From this part of the journal, methinks it would be a great dishonor to my dear master and friend for me to do not as he asked by contributing something worthwhile. Mayhaps there is part of the story which Mr. Frodo couldn't tell, so here are the scribbles of one Samwise, such as they are, to be placed in the care of my firstborn, Eleanor, for the benefit of all future generations. Though here at journey's end I lie in darkness buried deep, beyond all towers strong and high, beyond all mountains steep. Above all shadows rides the sun, and scare farewell dwell. I will not say the day is done, nor bid the stars farewell. Samwise Gamgee.